Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Awarded Visions, and today's episode is all about this guy, this person that keep pronouncing his name wrong. So I actually went online to see how the computer would pronounce or someone else would pronounce his name. It's Mitch. You pronounce it as Mitch. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but his name is Mitch. That's what I'm gonna call him. So Mitch here is a black mage of the fire element, costs 30, with subjobs thief and ranger. These subjobs are weird. Even almost 2 years later of playing this game, I always thought these subjobs were weird. Keep in mind, Mitch is a launch unit alongside Medea, and Medea had some sub jobs that made sense. So this was weird, but when you look into his kit further, you're gonna see why he has these sub jobs, and it's not for his attacks. That's for sure. But before we get into that, I just want to point out his Trustmaster sucks. I'm not gonna even talk about it, but this is what it is. It sucks. Even during launch, it kind of sucked. I mean, some players probably wanted it for the little bit extra magic, but it sucks. And his stats, he's squishy. He is more squishy than King Curry himself. He is so squishy, you can take a Magikarp and have it use tackle on him, and he will die instantly. That's how squishy he is. You do not want Mitch to go up in front at all. He could face magic units because he's neutral, but that's about it. Uh, he's he's the embodiment of what a black mage is, because black mages are known to be glass cannons. The point of black mages were to deliver high damaging spells at the cost of low defenses. So he's the embodiment of that for sure. He has 20 weakness in water. He has no status resistance whatsoever, and he's slightly weak to charm, so he could be easily charmed. You don't want him to get charmed because that's gonna be the end for you. Coming over here to his master ability, this is where we're gonna find what makes Mitch good, and that's this right here. His activation time minus 75%. Now he is the only mage, black mage. At in the earlier time, I'm pretty sure nowadays some black mages have something like this, but he's the only one at 70 minus 75% as an ability. Some newer black mages like Gargas, for example, has it in his master ability, I believe minus 20%, and there's probably a few others. But Mitch here is at minus 75%, so he is the fastest casting black mage in this game. And one way to make this even faster would be his focus support ability that helps reduce activation time even further. So now this is going to help with his mage attacks, so that he could just instantly, as soon as he does the spell, he's going to instantly cast it either on that same turn or wait one turn to cast it based on how you build it. And you don't really have to rely much on cards, espers, or weapons to help reduce that even further. You can just slap this ability on, and you're pretty much set. Now, this is part of the Ranger class, and this is why he has Ranger as a subclass just for this, because you're not using him for Ranger attacks whatsoever. I tried it in pre EX days, and it's not that great. His other Ranger passive gives him +1 in range, but that sadly does not work for his black mage spells. And really, if you do use this passive, it's more for the accuracy, which he no longer needs now, and I'll explain in a minute. And then his other support is from his thief. Races acquire AP. This can help a bit. But the two that I find that are really great for his support are his magic up, because the more magic the better, and his Thief Lord. Well, Thief Lord and his focus are kind of tied. You kind of want to switch around which one you want depending on what you want to accomplish, because his Thief Lord gives move +1 and raises agility. Now, the upside is that he's kind of slow, so raising his agility helps a little bit, and raising his move does help him get into the battlefield quicker. However, you do want him to stay in the back, because if he gets into the battlefield too quickly, especially if you're not using a tank, then he's more likely to die. So this is something that you have to play around with. But if you do use this, or if you don't use this, then focus will be what you want to have as your secondary support. Reflex is all you need as a reaction, because a chance of living is better than just dying real quick. He's not going to live long enough to use quick action or magic counter. Of course, if you do make him bulky somehow, this magic counter will do a lot of damage to your opponents if you max it out. So now we're going to get into his black mage stuff. But before we do, let me just point out that, again, Ranger is not that great. It had some uses pre-EX days, because not only did he have Sharpshoot for evasion units, he had access to Shadow Bind and Poison Arrow. And I was trying to make him into like a status condition type unit, because you're going to have him at 97 Fate anyway, so you might as well try to utilize that. It was so-so. It wasn't working out too well. And then his Thief does have some uses, because he does have Steal Time. So this helps with raids, and I did use him in some raids where I wanted to use Steal Time, and he was the easier one to build up at the time. This is early days. And Steel Vision also had some uses. The only other moves I did power out was Snipe Dagger, because again I was trying to utilize status conditions, and then Shadow Cast, because I thought he could be evasive. He's not evasive. But the main things you're going to want him to be is just Black Mage all around, because that's where he shines. That's where all his damage is. So let's look at his sub Black Mage real quick. He has access to Drain, Sleep, Osmosis, and he has access to all the fire stages. So Fire, Fire, and Faraga. I only powered up Faraga because that's in his main job, and that's a more powerful version of Fyra, and I believe a better range too. So as you can see, Faraga is powered up. So I have that power up. I don't worry about fire too much, but I might level up in the future for some niche stuff. He has access to one of the most powerful non-elemental magics in the game, which is Flare. I'm pretty sure that's the most powerful non-elemental magic in all of Final Fantasy. But he does have access to it, just like any other mage black mage in this game, and he will do damage to your opponent with this spell. So it's something that you want to have on, but you do want to be mindful, because his AP pool is small for a black mage compared to other black mages. He doesn't have a lot of AP usage. Now, you might think, oh, it doesn't seem that small. Keep in mind, Flare costs 50 AP. He has just over 120 AP, I say, depending on who you pair, what Esper you pair him up with, and other gear. He's only going to be able to cast both of these flares because there's only 2 uses. And then he's going to be limited on what else he's going to be able to cast afterwards. So if you want him to cast his other spells instead and in more sessions, then you might want to turn off Flare. If you're just trying to use him as a super glass cannon where he just goes in, does a flare, and then he dies unless reflex procs, then you can do that as well. This is something you have to play with. Now going into his upgraded moves, Bio got upgraded, in which the range increased a little bit, and it also now breaks attack and magic on top of inflicting poison. This is great for Miche because Miche, you want him to be in the back as much as in the back or in the middle as possible, away from the front lines, having your tank take all the hits so no one's messing with Miche. If you could perform that, then you're doing a good job in using Miche. And his EX upgrades really help in keeping him back because all his upgrades help increase his magic range and just hits from afar. This is why I say with his Thief lore, you have to play around with it if you want that +1 move or not. Because without the +1 move, you're further away from the battle, less likely to die. But on the other flip side of that, if you're away from the battle, you might not get there quick enough. So you have to play around with it a bit. His Toad, which he is famous for in this game, now has an even better range, so he could inflict this way in the back, and on top of that, breaks spirit and agility, which is huge for Miche and for any other magic users on your team, because not only does the agility get broken, which allows Miche to get another turn, but the spirit is broken as well, which will make Miche and any other magic users on your team hit stronger. And then if you do get the Toad, because some units are resistant to Toad while others are not, when they're in Toad form, they'll take hits even harder, and they can't inflict that much damage back. Now, I do believe if someone who's turned into a Toad, if they die, when they get revived, they get revived as a Toad. You have to either use Toad again to undo the curse, or just wait a couple of turns before Toad wears off. But it is one of those status conditions that stays even after death. So it's a really good move, and Miche does it the best. Any other black mage can't really utilize it too well because the range is much smaller, and you don't want your mage to be again in the front line. His EX120 move, Abyssal Mire, has decent range to it. It's an AoE, guarantees hits, and when it lands on the target, it halves their CT gauge. This is huge because this also helps level the playing field against Miche's low agility, and it will help Miche get another turn before your enemy does, or it will help your teammates get a turn ahead of your enemy if this lands. And because this is a guaranteed hit, this can hit all those nasty evasion units that people dislike, such as Helena and Zazan. It's a really great EX120 move, and I have a lot of fun with this one. So here I want to talk about his equipment and what cards he should hold and what espers to have on him. But this is how I have my Miche currently for the team I'm about to show you. And as you can see, 14,000 magic. That's nothing to scoff about, even for our unit, because again, he hits hard. But gear-wise, you want to stack up his magic as much as possible. The Galmia coat is probably the best coat for him to wear because it offers a 30% in magic stat boost right there. And I have the Vitality one because in my head, mages need as much HP as possible. The defenses might not be as viable for mages. Most mages are squishy. However, when I have the chance, I am going to make I believe there's a barrier one, I have to double check, version of this to see how it goes. But the main reason you want this is because of the bonus, the magic up 30%. For weapons, I have the Cypress Pile on him because it offers magic attack resistance piercing rate at 20. And when he's not casting his spells, or he can't for some reason, the normal attack offering a chance of confusion can help in a battle. So there's something to keep in mind. If you're facing light units, then maybe you want to use the Dragon Staff for more damage onto him. But then you also want to give him Diablo's Esper, because Diablo has an additional Light Eater and he will really, really do damage towards Elena's because of his guarantee hits. The other staff I do recommend is Yuna's Masteral Staff. Now, if you didn't get this when FF10 first arrived, don't worry, because JP just announced a rerun of that event. So we're going to eventually get that sometime this year. And this staff is something I can recommend because it does help with the Ecovation bar go up a bit faster. The sooner you can summon your Esper, the sooner you're going to get your Imperils and buffs from that Esper. So it's something to keep in mind. And if none of those staffs you have, then Platinum Rod is something that's worth it. There's nothing wrong with not using this. It has decent magic. It has the magic attack up for 15, and it does come often. I don't think it's part of those key quests to farm, but it's something to keep in mind. It comes often enough. Now, Trustmaster rewards, you only have two options. Well, three technically, but the two main options if you're using a weapon already is either give Miche a barrier or give him something that increases his attack power even further. I went with the barrier, Black Rose Helena's Trustmaster, because not only does he get a barrier from this, but it also raises his agility, which he does need. It will help him get into the battle a little bit quicker. I don't have this Trustmaster, but I believe Garvel's Trustmaster is something that he can hold as well, and that's going to help him with making him more of a glass cannon, increasing his magic attack power big time. And I believe he can use Glacier's Trustmaster as well, but I have to double check on that. However, if you don't have any of the staffs I mentioned, but you do have access to Shell, then Shell's Trustmaster is a good option because it has magic attack up and the rare spear piercing rate up at 15. And I say rare because I don't recall any other weapon having this. There's definitely no other Trustmaster that has this. So if you don't have any of the staffs I mentioned, then utilizing your Trustmaster slot for this is worth it, especially when Global gets the Ruin system that should be coming during the anniversary month. Another staff that he can utilize would be this one. This one's Livelle's Trustmaster. I think I said her name right. She's the Earth Calculator. This will help with his AP consumption because, again, his AP pool is small. And if you're trying to have him cast more spells, then this might help out a bit. Again, it'll be way better once Ruin systems come out. And then this staff might be the least I recommend. However, it does have its uses because if you're not running the focus support, or if you feel like you want to just make sure his spells are instant cast, this is definitely going to do it for you. Just having this with focus support and his master ability, he's going to instant cast his spells. But it's going to be a downgrade to his damage because this only has 99 magic. Again, Ruin system might change that a bit, but it's something to keep in mind. This is Margaret's Trustmaster reward. Another Trustmaster he could hold is this one because it offers Man-Eater on magic attack. This is Salir's Trustmaster, so it's something I recommend. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you can give him Zombie Ryu's Trustmaster for the re-raise, but honestly, re-raise You don't want him to be. He's not a unit you want to re-raise, honestly, because he's just super squishy. He's meant to go in and do big damage before he dies, and you as the player just have to make sure he goes in and does that big damage. Esper wise, Bahamas the best, but I'm not gonna explain why. I already said it so many times. But other options is Diablos, because again, if you're facing the light meta that's going on right now, the light eater from Diablos and the light eater from the Dragon stat will stack with each other, and Diablos does have decent magic stats to him, and it will help turn the tide against all those nasty Elenas, because you have a guaranteed hit in your kit, and you're gonna be doing major damage to those Elenas. Siren is a good option if you don't want to run focus ability and you want to run the Thief Lord ability, because Siren is the only Esper currently that has cast time reduction for attacks, which this will help Miche. And having Siren will also... Oh no, she doesn't resist water. Never mind. I thought she resists water for some reason. But... Oh, I believe it's in her tree that you could have water resistance, so that will help with that. Ramuh's another example of an Esper he can use. This one I have to... Mind Flare, I have to see, because Mind Flare has decent magic stats as well, but it's something I have to test out. I haven't had a chance to really see how well that works for Miche. And I believe Lich also has decent magic stats as also. Something I have to test out. But the three I mentioned, aside from Bahamut, those are good choices for Mitch to hold. Card-wise, he has good options. Now keep in mind his EX upgrades did lean more towards his not elemental damage as opposed to his fire damage, which is just Faraga at this point. But there's still some fire cards he could utilize. But let's say you don't have, because a lot of fire cards are limited. One that I don't have would be the Crystal Chronicles fire card. That one's good for him to hold. The one I do recommend, because this is in the pool, non-limited, would be this Trousseau, because it offers magic attack up, and this is going to apply to all his spells. So this is something to keep in mind, and then he'll gain some dark resistance on top of that. If you've been playing for a while and played during the Final Fantasy XIV events, then Bringers of the Shadow is a good option for him, because if you pair him up with physical attackers, the party effects are gonna work for the physical attackers. He'll benefit from the pierce attack resistance, so that's gonna put him at 5 resistance. He'll get more magic stat, and the bestowed ability works for him because he's a mage, so it works for fire mages. So this is meant for Ishtola to hold, but he can utilize this as well. And with him holding this card, if you have this card on a partner, then you're going to get an additional 50% magic up from the party ability of this card and more accuracy, so that helps landing flares on some evasion units. And you're going to get some slash resistance, so that's going to put it at -5 for that. So there's something to keep in mind. You're getting 80% magic up just from those two cards alone. And Final Fantasy XIV should be around the corner, so it's something to just keep in mind on that. Other cards he can hold Black Rose of Battlefield, because he could totally take advantage of Shadow Flare, which is a non-elemental spell, and Instacast, and it lowers its area attack resistance, and most of his spells are area attack resistance, so this synergizes really well with him. On top of that, it's going to give him more speed. So that's an option. And there's probably other options, but though two non-limiteds and two limiteds, I think that's that's good enough. Or else I'll be here all day. But yeah, so this is like a sample build of Miche, and now we're gonna go into the team build. All right, so today's team we have Miche, King Mont, and Aerith from Final Fantasy VII. Now, Miche, because he has more non-elemental stuff in his kit than fire, you can technically splash him in any team you want, as long as it's a team that helps with his magic attack in some way, or boosts up his magic attack. Pair him up with fire units can work because it will power up his Faraga even more and offer him more HP, so that's an option. But Miche is flexible in a rainbow team. So if you wanted this to be all fire, then you just have to replace Aerith with Minwu, because Minwu also has Time Mage, and that's why I'm using Aerith for. Aerith's here for her Time Mage ability and for her heals. And the whole point of this team is to launch Mont as far ahead as possible to distract the opponent, while Miche here brings up the rear to cast spells. So Mont is geared to be as defensive as possible. So here we see he has all positive, 80% in slash, 30 for pierce, 5 for strike. Kind of hard to gear for strike. Unless he was holding Phoenix. That will help out. But I wanted to go more slash because slash is more common. And then Missile 15, Magic 10. I gave him the Demon Wall Esper, so he has good resistance towards light and dark on top of ice if I ever run into ice. But his goal is to just go as far ahead as possible and use his LB to berserk the team. That way, if they attack Miche, they're only inflicting normal heightened damage, because berserk does increase his attack power, but at the cost of just doing normal attacks. And Miche could take a normal attack pretty okay. The other use for King Mont is for his Fang of Leonis, which helps has a chance of inflicting disable. And if the enemy unit can't attack, then Miche can't die. So that's where the synergy for Miche and Mont comes from. If you don't want to use King Mont, Duane is another unit you can use with Miche, because Duane, I believe, has AoE disable. I don't have Duane, so I don't recall. And he can be used as a pseudo tank because he has starting hate to help distract enemies away from Miche. Because again, Miche, squishy. You don't want that. Mont is holding the Encounter of Heroes card. As I explained earlier, it has the party magic up ability. Mont can't benefit from the magic stats, unfortunately, but he can benefit from the strike resistance. And he can also benefit from the HP up and the accuracy up. And I try to give him as much accuracy as possible, so that way I can hit Elena's with Berserk. So I gave him Nightblade Mastery for more attack and accuracy. And then Destiny Leonis is for his defenses and hate generation to start off the battle with his hate. And then Astrologer's Projection is just for even more chance to survive. And then Aerith here, she's the healer and time mage of the group. Now, Aerith is a hard unit to utilize, but I'm getting to know her better. The thing about her AI is that she's a rearguard healer, so she's going to want to stay in the back as often as she can. So to help break that, you gotta have her kind of like be behind the tank as much as possible, or near a unit as much as possible, so she could utilize her time skills onto those units. Because if she's stuck in the area, she will start buffing herself. And I did give her Moore's Trustmaster, which has 2 uses, and this is supposed to help King Mott against magic units, and the critical evasion rate up as well. But because it has 2 casters, there will be instances where she'll cast it on herself and then don't move, while both Miche and Mott are up ahead and they're dying, and then she's too far away to heal them. So it's something you have to keep in mind and play with her AI a bit more. But for the most part, she works well as a hero. I love using her. She's just on the difficult end of using. You really have to tailor to her on and off features for spells. That way she can heal when needed. She will stay in the back though. She's usually the last person alive if things go wrong. So that's a good thing. But yeah, other than that, I got her more spirit, healing power, speed casting, so that way she doesn't hang back too much. And I tailor her speed and King Mont's speed, so that way she can do her casting quickens, and then King Mon could do his turn, and then quicken will go off, and then King Mon will have another turn. Again, it's a risky strategy with Aerith because she will hang back often. It works better with Lemaire because Lemaire's main job is Time Mage, so she won't hang back as often. But I wanted to use Aerith because I haven't used her in a while, and I just wanted to use her. Again, you could replace her with Minyu if you wanted to be Mon on Fire. It'll work just the same. And she's holding Blossom in the Dark. This is I forgot about to mention this card, but I'll mention it here. This gives Man Eater on magic attack for the party. And again, Miche, you want to stack as much Man Eater as possible, so he can utilize his non-elemental spells more, because they're gonna do more damage. The map we're playing on does have fire damage up, so he can use Fragga also. Is gonna do about the same damage, or actually might do more, because the Man Eater does stack with that. Aerith's gonna benefit from the magic up 10%, but that's about it. She won't benefit for any other bestow abilities. And in Runja, I initially had this on, and it's a good spell. So Miche could definitely utilize this. But for Aerith, I had it off because I wanted her to use her other spell that breaks AP, because that in the long run that helps in battle more than just flat damage. But this is the team. Now let's check out the battle themselves. Alright, our first matchup is against Light Slashers featuring Cecil, and I honestly don't know how this is going to go because you don't see too many Cecils running around in Arena at all. So I wanted to see how this would fare, even though I have Cecil myself. But he is paired up with both Elena and Yuna, which are both meta units, so it's a good test to see how this is going to turn out. So start off with Aerith doing her Good Fortune buff from the More the Merrier's Trustmaster, and Kimot's going to start off with his bells, which is because, again, his purpose is going to be move as far up as possible so he could cast Berserk. And on his way there, he could do his other moves like Disable, the Fang of Leonis, and the AoE slash move. Stuff like that. As long as Aerith is near someone, then Aerith's going to move and do things. But if she's not near anyone, then she's gonna stay stuck. So the enemy side did cast re-raise on Elena, which is kind of scared me a little bit, but I got off my quicken onto Kimont, so he's gonna go again. And here comes a Fang of Leonis, but sadly it doesn't cause disable. There's more chances later on, hopefully, but I really wanted that disable on. So here Aerith is gonna do her second usage of Good Fortune onto Miche, which is great. And now Mott's gonna do his AoE slash move for slash down resistance. It's only gonna really help him because Miche doesn't do slash attacks, but I did leave it on because it is an AoE hit, and it will allow Miche to combo chain that with his Faraga if he ever wants to. But sadly, Yuna says nope, I'm just gonna heal all that up and give both Protect and Shell on top of that. So here, Aerith's turn now. She's going to cast Quicken onto Miche, which is great because Miche is not going to be able to join the battle and not have to worry about getting hit too much. Unfortunately, his cast time is a little bit on the slow end here because I don't have focus on him. I have the D-Floor. But thankfully, Mott is going to do his Limit Break, which hopefully hits everyone. It hits everyone, but Elena didn't get Berserk. The other two units did get Berserk. So now Miche is going to catch Flare. He cast Flare, which is going to do over 7,000 damage, which is pretty impressive. So it knocks out Cecil, and now a Berserk unit knocked down my Kimont, which only leaves Miche and Aerith versus 2 meta units. And I don't know how this is going to go. So Elena pops her Limit Break. Luckily for Miche has the barrier shell active, so he was able to live through that, and now he has Spirit on top of all that. So now he's going to cast his Abyssal Mire, and that's going to help knock out Yuna, but Elena's Courage procced, so she lives. Thankfully here, Miche was able to survive this attack. I think the Spirit from Aerith's healed helped with that. I can't confirm, but I feel like that's what contributed, and maybe Shell was up a little bit longer. So now Miche casts another Abyssal Mire, which knocks out Elena, but she does have re-raise, so she does come back up. Now Aerith here is going to try to attack Elena, and it works, and we knocked her out. GG. I actually like that as a first match. That went pretty well. Alright, for our next matchup is Cloud, Helena, and Duane. Another meta team with 2 slashers. Although Cloud can sometimes be a ranger with barrage, but I'm not expecting it on this team. Usually I see Clouds as rangers when they're paired with Frederica. So let's get into this and see how it goes. They start off with your usual barriers on Helena, and Cloud starts off with his usual Soldier's Honor. Pretty much basic stuff. Duane here is, to me, is the scariest, but Cloud is scary as well. I'm hoping that the shell from this ability helps protect me from Helena, but we're gonna see. So now Helena casts her Darkened Focus. That's gonna bring accuracy up and cast reduction down. But the accuracy is not gonna matter because I'm not evasive. I wish I was, but I'm not. And let's see, there's not much to say. I'm hoping I could Mont could catch Helena with a disable, because that would really help out in making sure that I get victory in this match. So now Mont's can move in, and unfortunately he uses the claws attack instead. I don't think he was in range to do his Fang of Leonis. But now Helena's gonna back up and do her attack, which is gonna be a major issue because that's Spirit down, and that means her next attack is gonna do more damage even with my shell. And to my surprise, the Cloud is under Ranger's sub job, so he did a barrage, and I'm not too much prepared for missiles, so I wasn't expecting that. And the position I'm Mont's in, he's not going to be able to move into too well because he's blocked by those 4 crystal bots. So now Helena here is going to do her limit break and is doing a massive damage. And now I have dark resistance down, which is going to be an issue. So now he does his AoE attack again. Thankfully, Miche comes in, does his Faraga, which is instant cast, and boom, knocks out Duane with 1 hit. It's a chain build up and the map, but 8,000 damage from chain 1, that's still impressive. But sadly, Cloud knocks out Mott, so now it's just Miche and Aerith versus a Cloud and Helena. So Miche got quickened here, which allowed him to dodge this Devastator from Helena. So he goes after Cloud, but Cloud procs his Reflex, and you gotta love Reflex. You gotta love it, you gotta hate it. And I don't know how much damage that would have done, but I feel like that would have knocked out Cloud if Miche was trying to do it. So now Miche uses his own Reflex to dodge Helena's attack, which allows him to live for at least 1 more turn. So now Cloud's going to do just a normal attack. He was able to live that. Miche is going to back up and do his frag on both of them. But Helena has her shield, so she was able to live that. And Cloud just barely lived as well. So now Miche is finally knocked out, and it's just 2 against 1. And Cloud procs another Reflex. And that was a deciding factor, honestly, because if Cloud didn't proc, he would have died from that attack. But I don't think Aerith can take on both a Cloud and Helena. Helena does her attack, and there goes Aerith. It was a good match, but sadly it was a loss. Alright, with 1 loss under my belt and 1 win, our final match is going to be against Jueme, Cetia, and a Miche. I had to record this battle because someone else is using Miche, and I'm happy about that. So I wanted to see what happens when it's Miche versus Miche. So I had to throw this in, and plus it's against 2 cost 100 units. My guess is that this person has this team for a limited battle and forgot to change, because it's 2 cost 100 units and a cost 30. Perfect numbers for a limited battle. But I'm also happy that I'm seeing another Miche. The Miche is at level 115, but I don't think that matters. Plus, double the Miche, double the action. Why not? Also get to see some Cetia action, because I didn't get Cetia, sadly. I pulled a little bit, but I wasn't really into trying to get her. So we start off with all our usual buffs. Mott has time to cast Hate, and now he's going to get another turn thanks to Quicken. And he's going to be in range to go after Jueme. So here, he's going to decide to go for Fang of Leonis, but doesn't get the disable, sadly. So now enemy Miche is going to move in. I don't know what he's going to cast. Or whatever, if he casts a fire move, then it's going to be deadly, because Cetia here's Limit Break does imperil fire. Part of me did want to go after Cetia because of that Limit Break, but I didn't get her. So I got cast Toad. The Toad, thankfully I didn't get turned into a Toad, but both my Spirit and Agility are down on Mott, which is not good, because Miche is going to do more damage to me, and I'm a little bit slower. Jume is going to come in and do her attack, but I have so much slash resistance, I'm not worried about it. However, Cetia is going to do more damage and stun Mott, so Mott can't even move in to do his Berserk. Miche is going to get his turn, and he's going to do a Faraga. 3k damage, that's not bad. But now, enemy Miche is going to come in and use Shadow Flare, which again is a nice move for Miche to have, especially when you're teaming up against units that can do AoE attacks. Luckily, I was able to live the slash attacks, and Mott was able to retaliate his AoE attack, but enemy Miche reflex went off. Can't do much about that. So now here I'm taking another AoE attack, and sadly Aerith did not survive that. But now Miche's turn, he's going to cast his Faraga, which is going to do a lot of damage, but everyone on their side lived the attack, and now I'm receiving another shadow flare. But somehow Mott survived, which is good, and now Mott was able to do a triple kill, and that ends that match. So my final thoughts on Miche. He's a tough unit to use. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, it took me a while to try to get him to work. But when you get him to work, he works pretty well. He does the damage. You stack up the man-eater, his magic, and he's going to wreck face. So he has the damage. His EX jobs were great for him. And his EX jobs does help him stay in the back. He will cast Toad, which I'm glad they fixed that AI, because in the early days, he was just not doing Toad. Well, no one was doing Toad, honestly. But he wasn't doing Toad, and people did point that out, and Gumi did fix that. So I'm glad they did. Do I recommend EXing him? I can't recommend it for everyone, because he's a glass cannon, and glass cannons aren't meant for everybody to use. They're meant for people who can handle the fact that he's gonna die, that the unit's gonna die easily. And if you're not the type of person that likes that, then you're not gonna like Miche at all. I do have a slightly strong recommendation for the players that run fire counts to level EX Miche, because currently we do the fire does have 3 cost 100 units: Cetia, Glacial, and King Mont. And when it comes to limited time battles, you can't use all 3, and if you try to use 2 out of the 3, that's already 200 points to the 230 that you're limited, and you're only going to have 30 left. Miche fits perfectly there. And if you're the type of person that wants to use your cost 100 units, then throw Miche into that fire team, because he's going to be way more useful than just throwing in a Zazan with gold armor, and all Zazan does is just sit back and do nothing. At least Miche will go in and do something, and that might actually pay off in the end. So if you're a person that only focuses on fire and wants to use your cost 100 units, then I do recommend EXing Miche. He's useful. He will be useful, especially if you pair him with Glacial. That's for sure. Now, do I recommend his level 120 skill? And I do, because it's a guarantee hit, and Invasion's running around everywhere. And it also halves the CT of anybody it hits, which can play a huge role in battle. It's more meant for Miche to be able to combat enemies' speed and their CT gauge building. But it's going to help out your teammates also, because there's a good chance they'll get the turn before your opponent. And if that happens, the tide of the battle can change. So I do recommend using a Blossom to get that skill. If nothing else, it's a guarantee AoE non-elemental spell. It's going to do damage towards Elena's. But anyway, that's my review of Miche. I hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you guys in the next video. Laters.